I am here. Proof of life. Hello, Calarion in the chat. Is my sound okay? I hope. Let me know. So this is going to be our placeholder news show in place of the weekly. Sounds good? Okay, cool. So I just have 4 current stories I wanted to go over that I thought were interesting. Not a lot of news the last couple of weeks, like no real barn burners. So, I found some stuff. So we'll see how it goes. So let's get started. So, our first story, would you like fries with that? John Haidt spins the benefits of franchising D&D. So, WotC President John Haidt has been espousing the benefits of moving to a franchise model for D&D. I, for one, have been wondering what exactly that was going to mean. And so we got an interview that goes into some detail. All D&D operations will now fall under the purview of Dan Ayoub, A-Y-O-U-B. He compared this model to the previous model in place during the making of the last Dungeons & Dragons movie, because during that model, the pre-franchise model, they had very limited cross-promotion. They didn't take advantage of it. It wasn't well organized, basically. And under this new franchise model, the idea is because it's all controlled by one person or division, they won't miss that opportunity with other projects. So the one that he cited was Stranger Things, the new last season of that is coming out very soon. And so they're already integrating plans for cross promotion with that. He said, quote, it'd be nice to have that all lined up so when this thing rolls out, we've got a campaign for you to enjoy that's something you saw on the show or the characters on the show. Haidt also mentioned a new D&D MMO, but he stopped short of saying the project was official. Haidt also said that the franchise model was there to fully align their physical and digital sides of play. He went on to cite COVID as creating sort of a whole new generation of D&D players who just weren't familiar with physical play, like in-person play with physical books and that sort of thing. And so essentially it's an opportunity for them to merge those two things, the online VTT all digital folks with the in-person play folks, which sounds good. Everything in this report, this interview he did, sounded positive. It's hard though for me in the light of previous statements by Hasbro CEO Chris Cox that they have opportunities basically to monetize their D&D players more. And so it's hard for me not to hear all this news without having a little suspicion in it for me. But we'll see. He teased an MMO, but he wouldn't commit to it being official, which I figure after Baldur's Gate, they had to probably be searching for some new D&D video game integration, so MMO kind of makes sense. I'm curious, who's going to do it? Who's going to be the designer? What's it going to look like? Is it going to look more like a WoW kind of MMO, or is it going to look like a more current Dune sort of thing? Or maybe what's it called? The Skyrim MMO. I'm blanking on what it's called right now. Anyway, so curious where that's going to go. Obviously, he wouldn't commit to being official, so who knows? Maybe they're just in the spitballing phase right now. But when I hear integration of the online players and the physical player, in-person players, I wonder, what does that mean exactly? Like, are they going to offer better deals on, you buy a PDF with your book? If you buy a physical book, that's something they're way behind on, and they don't obviously like to do. And it seems like that would run a little opposite to what they've been building with D&D Beyond and the semi-failed VTT. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. But overall, I mean, what he had to say was positive, so I just gotta avoid my own built-in automatic skepticism, I suppose. All right, let's look at story number 2, and feel free to comment about all this, and I'll do, at the end of the show, I'll do sort of what Jeremy does, where I go back through the comments and we can talk. I'm not going to do the go away for a little bit and come back, but I will go through the comment section after I go through the stories. All right. Find your path to more games. Pathfinder launches a new Humble Bundle. So everything you need to start playing Pathfinder 2E can be yours for around $30. This new Pathfinder Primer Humble Bundle, so it's a new Humble Bundle, they're calling it Pathfinder Primer, has come out, and you can get the Player Core Book, the GM Core Book, the Monster Core Book, and the Player Core Book 2, whatever that means, for about $30, which is actually a really good deal. Additionally, you can get a character sheet pack and flip mats for digital play. There's also a bunch of their adventure path books that can be added on. So if you get the entire bundle, it's 28 items for about $45. So that's a ton of books. I looked through the site, the Humble Bundle site. Link is in the description, by the way. And it's a lot. It's a lot of books. And the flip mats are kind of like dungeon tiles, which apparently have been made so they work well on online play. So right now, the bundle's sold more than 1,400 units. And it's still on for another 19 days. So this thing is actually absolutely killing it. I am not like a big Pathfinder person at all, but I recognize the quality of work that these guys do. I actually have a lot of their standees that they made for Pathfinder. They used to make these big, maybe they still do. They used to have these big boxes of standees. And they had like a humanoid sort of one, which was good for player characters, NPCs. And then they had one that was more dedicated to monsters. And they're really chunky, and they come with a ton of standees. And they're a really thick, durable chipboard that they're printed double-sided on. And they come with little black standee stands. Those are really nice. So I am a fan of them in the sense that I know they do quality work. And I know that they're very popular. So this looks good. If you have any interest in Pathfinder, and if you want just the starter stuff, it looks like you can get all the starter books for about $30, or you can go whole hog and get 28 different items, including a bunch of adventures, for $45. So it's a really good deal. 19 more days. I put the link in the description on the video. If it sounds cool to you, check it out. I'm loving all these Humble Bundles. They're just maximum value, like kind of the antithesis of what I just mentioned with WotC not, providing a PDF with their hardback books. It's like, take all these PDFs at a cut rate level because it's for charity. Very cool. All right. Next story. GW may now stand for going without. Games Workshop faces shortages. So, Games Workshop appears to be struggling making demand. Rumors have begun spreading that they lack the proper infrastructure to meet production demands, and there's a bit of a schism occurring between the demand from the retail market, the brick and mortar stores, demand from online retailers, and demand from their influencers. So right now, influencers are receiving product, and it may be part of the problem because in some cases they're receiving 2 copies of every new set that releases, while brick and mortar stores are being capped at 5 copies. So you literally have someone who's just going to put your product in a video that's getting almost half of the amount you're willing to send to a retailer. To me, that's crazy. So a good example of this is a store that was trying to order 20 units of a popular new item would only receive 5, but the influencers are guaranteed to get their 2 copies. In addition, retailers are reporting that GW recently started bundling older, less popular product that they're trying to move with new product. And the particular one cited recently, they have a new set for Warhammer Battle, that's I guess it's Warhammer Old World is what it's called now. The Grand Cafe Battalion set, which was apparently in high demand, and they were asking retailers to bundle older miniatures, specifically I guess some like Chaos Warriors or something that weren't very popular, with their purchase. And the more of the older product they were willing to take on, the more units of the new hot thing they were allowed to order. So that's a little scandalous. While GW can coast on success for a while, in the current tightening economy with tariff wars, etc., different shipping options going down the tubes, and the fact that the free advertising they're expecting to receive going out to the masses when their Amazon shows finally hit, that's still years away. So it's likely they're going to see a downturn in sales and demand until that time. Like they seem to be counting on the Amazon show being a huge deal, which I think it will. But until then, they're dealing with higher prices, more shipping problems, and their own production troubles. So we might see a GW downturn before a new GW explosion, basically. The thing with bundling the old, less popular product with the new hotness seems particularly scandalous to me, but that's just my opinion. All right, I'm kind of burning through these. I'm sorry I don't have a lot for you tonight, but here's the last one, and this is a pretty feel-good one, I would say. Gen Congratulations Indie. Gen Con shatters records after 2025 event. So Gen Con just happened, if you were in a hole, didn't know. They saw 72,000 fans that descended on Gen Con this year. They broke their attendance records, and they generated an estimated $82 million for the city of Indianapolis, just with all the extra that goes on from these 72,000 people coming to their city. Gen Con, just for people that don't know, began in 1968, and it's the longest running tabletop gaming convention in North America. It recently expanded out of the Indiana Convention Center, where it's traditionally held, and now also uses the Lucas Oil Stadium, which is the Indianapolis Colts football stadium. So it's so big it takes up all of the convention center and is now filling into the football stadium. Gen Con execs were taken on a tour of convention center expansions that are already being worked on. So this is such a big deal for Indianapolis that they are expanding their convention center. So that seems pretty good, right? The convention hosted nearly 30,000 events and activities, including things like gaming sessions, tournaments, artist and author appearances, film screenings, musical performances, and costume contests. Gen Con also raised $40,000 for Women for Change and the Brown Toy Box Foundation, which are both charitable organizations. That money's generated, I believe, just mainly through the actual badge sales for convention attendance. So on the backs of all the success, Gen Con has been contracted to stay in Indy through 2030. So they've got another, 5 years guaranteed there. And I think if they're breaking records now and the convention center is literally doing expansion work that they're showing the Gen Con executives, we can probably expect them to renew that for even longer. Let's see. Badges for next year's Gen Con go on sale in early 2026. So I traveled to Gen Con with Will from the channel back in 2015. It was my first and only time going to Gen Con, and it was great. It was a ton of fun. It was packed. You'll hear lots of stories about how packed it is. It was backpack in the face constantly, dodging people carrying swords, and just all it was crazy, but it was a lot of fun too. So it doesn't surprise me that it's blowing up. It's really rebounded from the quarantine days quite a bit. So more power to them. If I would say, I would like to go back, I guess, but I want to go to Origins. Origins is sort of the, I guess, runner-up convention for tabletop gaming. Maybe it's a little more board game focused. I've always been led to believe that it's more about playing the games and less about advertising and marketing and, meet and greets and that sort of thing. So you have more time to just play games, which I'm all for, because that was something we ran into at Gen Con, is like, if you wanted to play games but you weren't signed up in advance, it was really hard. There were no real open game spaces that you could stumble into. We played a few guerrilla board games. Like literally, they had a big Magic tournament area sectioned off, and we wandered in there, met some friends who were also attending, and set up a board game in the back table nowhere near the actual card play. And we played board games there, and no one chased us away, fortunately. But in the main gaming hall, we did get chased away when we tried to just play unauthorized games, which was a little off-putting to me. But yeah, what are you going to do? So that is, believe it or not, just all my stories for today. Check the chat. Who's in there? Just Clarion. Hey, Clarion. How you doing? Thanks for hanging. I know this was very late. I said 9, and now it's 10, and it's also very short. Any notable games you guys played that year? I don't know if you're into any of the... we didn't play any RPGs. You had to book those in advance, and we were rookies, and we didn't do a good job of booking stuff in advance. But we were there ostensibly to do interviews. Dirty Little Secret as well, and I had a horrible board game YouTube back in the day. Don't try to find it. It's not that good. But so we went around and interviewed some people. We interviewed the guys at Gamelin Games. That was probably my favorite interview. Though they make all the tiny games, like Tiny Epic Galaxies and Tiny Epic Western, and just they have a million of them. They're small box games. Their whole idea is they're very portable. They don't take up a lot of space, and some of them are very good. Tiny Epic Galaxies, I think it's called, is the one they were demoing that year, and that's a good game. We still play that one to this day. Will brought a card game that he kickstarted and demoed it kind of in the game hall where you're supposed to be booked and everything, but he demoed it anyway. Because we met with the leader, I'm not sure how you say it, Leader Games guys, and they wanted to see it, so he demoed it for them. It was kind of fun. He did it just a real small Kickstarter. I think he only made like 100 decks or something like that. Any notable games? Yeah, so that was it. I met Trace Ballou, if you know anything about Mystery Science Theater. He was Dr. Forrester / one of the voices of Crow the Robot. He was there doing autographs and stuff. I met him. That was awesome. What else? The food's not good. We ate in a mall food court most of the time. Met Tom Vassell from Dice Tower. Yeah, kind of over that guy, but he was nice. And we interviewed a couple that sadly didn't, they were all planning to be kickstarted and they didn't get off the ground, but I guess that's part of the reality of it all. Ironically, in the mall that's next to the convention center, you can literally just walk over to it from the convention center indoors. We played more games out there, just like in the food court and in little tables that are set up around the mall, than we did at Gen Con. But it was fun. I have a Will Wheaton story that I will someday tell. I think we were going to do a Patreon level for it or something. I don't know. Will Wheaton was there. I've been to Origins once, Clarion says. Oh, that's cool. Tell me all about Origins. Is it really the more gamer-friendly event, like I've always been told? My understanding that one's in Columbus, Ohio, correct? Yes, I think it's in Columbus. Yeah, tell me all about it. Gen Con was fun. Indy, I wasn't super impressed with Indianapolis. I mean, it's just this big, flat town in the middle of nowhere. I already live in one of those. Their Mexican food sucks. It's hard being a Californian. We got several impromptu games. It was maybe 20 years ago, though, so things might have changed. Well, I'm sure they've changed, but I still hear it spoken of in those terms as being the more gameplay-friendly event. I think they were having some financial trouble for a while, but I haven't heard any stories about that recently, so hopefully they're doing okay. Hopefully. Yeah, I would like to go to that. I think I want to go to GaryCon, but I also don't want to deal with any weird, like, angry old OSR people. Got into a Die 20 modern game and a Mage the Awakening game. Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, 20 years ago, Mage the Awakening checks out. That's cool. I always wanted Will, because Will had a moment where he was into all the, vampire, all the Mage Ascension or whatever it's called. Is it Mage Ascension now and it was Mage the Awakening? Or am I confusing those? Werewolf, etc. So I always wanted him to run one where I could play a mage because I loved Ars Magica. Think so. Yeah, okay. It's just kind of like a new interpretation of Ars Magica in a lot of ways, which I thought was really cool. I think he ran Vampire for us one time. I haven't read any of the World of Darkness stuff ever. I've played it a little bit, but I haven't run any of it. D20 Modern, Will, I think, ran that for us one time, but in classic Will style. It just was his own homebrew thing. So I think the serial numbers were filed off and we were just doing his own thing. So I'm not even sure if I got a full sense of what playing D20 Modern was like. Sort of a variant on third edition, right? Sort of genericized third edition with rules for modern weapons and things. Could be wrong about that. So yeah, I would love to go to that. The Games Workshop's one kind of tripped me out. I was kind of hoping Abyss would be here because I knew he'd hop on that conspiracy cycle. It was 3.25 kind of. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So the GW story was a trip. I don't really buy GW stuff, although I've been playing the mobile game, the 40K mobile game, Tacticus. And I'm just a grinder. I refuse to pay them money to get stuff, so I just grind it out. I got into it through Andre, who's played on the channel a few times. I also did a Vampire the Requiem game where a random dude at the table actually cheated in rolling. Oh my god, dude, that's so deflating to encounter in a role playing game. Way back in the 90s, one of the people in our gaming group, well, he'll never see this, a guy named Dave, he would cheat at his rolls, and it's just like insufferable. Like, why do people do that? Like, you're not playing to win, you're playing to, do this cool narrative communal thing. But yeah, he would roll his dice. So at the time, one guy was running a second edition AD&D Forgotten Realms campaign that we were all playing in, and he'd roll his 20-sided and he would just snatch it up real quick, so it'd be like 16, 18, and I was running for a while a Warhammer fantasy campaign and role-playing campaign, and same thing. That was percentile, and he'd roll the percentile, snatch him up. Or he would, back before the percentile where the tens die would have both numbers printed, so you'd see a 10 and a 20 and a 30. Back then, a lot of times you would just roll two different colored 10-sideds, and you would say, the red one is the tens and the black one is the ones or whatever, right? And he would just swap it all the time. No, the black is the 10. No, the red is the 10. It's like, Dave, why would you do this, dude? It's just a game. But we were younger, so no one would really confront him. We would just, like talk about him behind his back, basically. It was kind of sad. But yeah, Vampire the Requiem. And I don't want to, get cliche, but I almost feel like any of the World of Darkness games, that crowd is way more into the role playing, I would think, and the vibe of the just general vibe of the whole thing than a lot of other role players are. So to cheat in that environment, ew, gross. Even worse. Somehow made it worse. But that's funny you mentioned that because, whenever the topic of safety tools and, and things like that come up, and, it's real easy to be misperceived as being super negative about safety tools. To me, it's all about context. And in a convention environment where you're playing with strangers, 100% that's the correct context to have safety tools and just clear rules in general, just clear, this is what we do at this table, what we don't do at this table, and if that sounds good, please play with us. If it doesn't, find another game. So I'm all for those things in those environments. Let's see. Clarion said, yeah, I think it was that it was a new edition that year, and they were really promoting it with a lot of games. So maybe random people tried it who wouldn't have otherwise. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I remember uh, World of Darkness players. Um, there was a Denny's near where I lived when I was doing a lot of role playing in the '90s, early '90s, and it was very traditional for us to play a big long session, and then some of us who still felt like hanging out would go to this Denny's, and more than once we ran into vampire larpers who were there larping at a Denny's. And it's one of those things that, like, now as an old guy, I'm like, cool, more power to you. You know, whatever floats your boat, whatever rings your bell. Uh, but back then, oh, it was such nerd judgment going on. Like, literally a group of nerds judging another group of nerds. Like, oh my God, they're doing it in public. So gross. You know, like, so hypocritical. And it's funny to think of now, but back then we were so judgmental of those folks. So I apologize to vampire LARPers if I ever, like, gave you a stink eye in the 90s. You do you. Their resolution system was funny because it was literally just rock, paper, scissors. Um, that we saw anyway. Yeah, I wish I had more news. There weren't even any real, like, good Kickstarters I felt like talking about. It's almost like we're in a little bit of a lull right now. Um, Interesting. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I would love to go back and really watch them without being judgy and see what they were actually doing for the system of their LARP. Like, how do you portray the various assets that your character, vampire character, might have, or their abilities, talents, what have you? Like when you're sitting around at a Denny's just playing rock paper scissors, but who knows? Cool. But yeah, there's a couple Kickstarters like they send out those little "get ready, we're gonna kickstart this soon" kind of messages, but they never give you a lot of detail. They want you to come back and follow the actual Kickstarter once it launches. So I'm like, well, I could report on this. For instance, one that Jeremy shared one with me. He's still thinking about us. Um, is a miniature agnostic pirate or miniature agnostic Western skirmish game based on the Pirate Borg and Mork Borg type rules. So he sent it to me. He's like, "This looks cool." I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome." And you click on it, and you get no information because they're not going to give you any of that until the Kickstarter launches. So I went and I looked at the people behind its Kickstarter history, which is a nice thing that you can do. And they have uh, done other Kickstarters in the past, but they're all very small press, very small, limited run type stuff that they end up usually putting a PDF on DriveThru. So this will probably be something very similar to that. So there wasn't really much to talk about, as I now spend 5 minutes talking about it. There wasn't much detail to give, so there were a bunch of those. So I just left all those out and went with the the tantalizing stuff like Games Workshop is screwing retailers over, cool stuff like that. The franchise thing, I would just say it makes total sense. They want to be efficient. They want to have synergies because corporate people love to talk about synergies. I'm just suspicious. Like, Hasbro and WotC have built a natural suspicion into me. So we'll see. Pathfinder's cool. Like I said, it's not really my jam. That sort of crunchy D20 based game. that's very tactical, very dudes on a grid. Um, there's a place for that. It's great. It's wonderful. If people like it, awesome. But even though I don't, it's not really my thing. I fully support this company because they put out high quality products, and you get a PDF if you buy the hardbacks. The GW thing is scandalous. I'm very glad I'm not a regular GW customer. GW adjacent, I am going to probably buy the player's book for Cubicle 7's new Warhammer Old World role-playing game because I'm really curious. I've been hearing good things about it, and it's a totally different system than the old one, so I will be going to that, and that's only indirectly giving Games Workshop my money. And as far as I know, Cubicle 7 has never screwed people over with distribution or anything. PDFs are very reasonable. Yes, I agree. What else is going on in the news? Did you watch Alien Earth episode 5? Can we talk about it openly now? Let me know. Invasion, if we're going to do entertainment, Invasion is on episode 2 now, I think. No, episode 3, maybe, on Apple. I haven't, but go ahead. I won't. I'm not going to spoil it. I will say, though, it's really good. It is worth the watch. It feels like almost its own self-contained movie that ties in with the series. It's pretty cool. So watch it when you can. Where is it going? Oh, Apple Invasion. I think I recommended it to you once before. Very different than Alien Earth. It's a super slow burn. You got to be okay with that. But they're on episode 3 now. I've watched the first 2. And it's interesting because it's such a slow build. Every season is a real slow build. They did a funny thing in that show because they had child actors. This is the 3rd season. So they had child actors, and they built the gap in production from season 2 to season 3 into the story. So literally the story of season 3 picks up 2 years after season 2. So you don't have that problem like I think Stranger Things is going to have, where you've got all these teenagers, who look like they're 25. So you've got all these kids who are kind of high school age in the first 2 seasons, who now look noticeably older, but they've moved the timeline, so it's kind of okay. It's not as off-putting. They are like 25 now. Yeah. I like Stranger Things. I'm one of the sullied who still like Stranger Things. It started getting a lot of hate, kind of from Vecna on, I think. But I still enjoy it. It's good that it's ending. The new season being the last season is appropriate and good. But I still enjoyed it. Like, all the Eddie stuff was just so spot on to kind of the experiences I had in like middle school and high school, playing role-playing games. And like, I got in with these older kids, when I was in like 8th grade up. I started role-playing on the weekends with these kids that were all like 4 or 5 years older than me, right? So, when I was like 14, I thought they were just the shit. I thought they were amazing, which in reality, they were just a bunch of dorky, older teenagers. But there were so many beats with Eddie and that story in Stranger Things. It just reminded me of, being that age and into this hobby in the 80s, with the Satanic Panic stuff and, the way people behaved to D&D players, because let's face it, we were all considered D&D players back then. But yeah, man, it was just too real. I enjoyed it. So I know it's not so hot to be a big Stranger Things fan anymore, but I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. So I'm going to enjoy the last season. Being a young weirdo, yeah, totally. Playing games in the library at lunch. You get like what? Because I think our lunches were like some weird calculation, like 47 minutes or something dumb like that. So we'd get like 10-15 minutes of role playing in, with the rest of the time just being bullshitting and being dumb kids. Yeah, those are some memories. Getting in trouble for rolling the dice too loud. Oh, dude. Exactly. Exactly. There was a little private, these couple little rooms in the back of the library. They'd let us use one, and then eventually we wore out our welcome and got the boot. So we finished our high school role playing career meeting on a picnic table, like at the back of the school near the like football fields. And it was weird. It was bizarre because you have like PE classes going on, and we're there playing D&D. Actually, we played Traveler too, but playing games at this picnic table. And one of the guys in the group, every time we met at lunch, he would work on taking the picnic table apart. I'm not advocating that. It's just what he was doing. And by the end of the year, he got it so he could just like pick up any of the boards that made up the picnic table and just move them off if he wanted to. So we would like just keep them there discreetly, and no one caught on to the fact that it was basically at any time you could just take the whole table apart. Dumb kid stuff. But yeah, so is there any other cool... I'm trying to think of any other cool media. Oh, the Red Sonja movie, Clarion, I think it's on video on demand now. Are you going to check it out? I'm going to check it out. It's from the person who made the Solomon Kane movie, which I wanted with all my heart to be a great movie. It ended up being an okay movie. Screwed it up in my opinion because they tried to make it an origin story for Solomon Kane, which isn't really in the short stories by Robert E. Howard the way they did it. And they then tried to turn that origin story into this weird epic story. So it didn't quite work. The actor that played Solomon Kane is perfect, and I love him. James Purefoy, I think his name is. He was also in the old HBO series Rome. He was fantastic in that. So it's worth watching. It wasn't executed perfectly. I don't know. You may have already seen it. But yeah, Red Sonja is the same person. That person has since come out as trans, so it was a man. Now prefers to be gendered as a woman. So I want to see it. The name, I'm blanking on her name right now, but yeah, I want to see it. I keep hearing that it feels like an 80s fantasy movie, which should make you be like, oh no, a lot of those were cheesy and bad. But for me, it's like, well, yeah, but I enjoy the cheesy and bad. And the following. Have I seen that? I don't think I've seen that, but I'm going to Google it to make sure. Christopher Nolan movie? Or is this a different following? there's a following TV series with Kevin Bacon, it looks like. Tell me more, Clarion. I may be looking at the wrong thing. Huh. No say. Like Beastmaster. Yes, exactly. I don't know if you're into like Mystery Science Theater, Riff Tracks kind of stuff, but they're... Oh, we're talking about James Purefoy. Thank you. Okay. I have not seen that, but if he's in it, it's all the better because he's great. I don't know if you're into Mystery Science Theater or Riff Tracks type stuff, but they did this great old, I think it was like a European production, like part Italian production company called Cave Dwellers. And that's only one version of the name. It's also Ator because the main guy is this really smart barbarian guy named Ator. And apparently there's a series of Ator movies, but I've only seen the one that in America got released as Cave Dwellers. Anyway, their riffs of it are just phenomenal. Check them out if you like that kind of stuff. He was good in the following, very creepy. Yeah, he can do creepy. He can do asshole really good. He can do like really serious bad guy, which he kind of did in Rome. He was, what do you call it? Mark Antony in the Rome show, I believe. And it's perfect for Solomon Kane because Solomon Kane is just this hard ass Puritan guy. Who kind of like Conan wins, battles or fights almost more because of his willpower than anything else. In his case, it's more of like his weird puritanical faith, as opposed to Conan's just raw force of will, I guess. But it's still just kind of a willpower thing. Like, how are they defeating these supernatural creatures? Well, they will it into existence. That's how. Anywho, I am pure rambling now because this is obviously a very short news segment. So let me just give you channel news. Channel news, which I touched on last night, is Jeremy will be back sometime in the near future. Hoping next Thursday we'll get the weekly back. I might stream Total War Warhammer some more because it's frankly easy to do, and I like playing that game. So if I could shoot the shit with Calarion or Abyss or whoever while I'm playing Warhammer, that would be cool. And now I kind of want to see where this dumb Kizilvite campaign goes. Like, it's the introductory campaign, so I don't know that it's going to get too deep, but we'll see. But yeah, Jeremy will be back. Hopefully Thursday. Hopefully him and Chris are both available to do the weekly. And then maybe we'll cobble together a roleplay night Friday if Jeremy feels up to it. I have not finished my Indie Heat stuff, so that is still a couple weeks out. So if he's up for running some more Cthulhu, I think that would be really fun, or whatever he feels like. Or, maybe we'll just do the news and reset for a week after. We'll see. But Clarion, I appreciate you always being here, being our rock. I wish Abyss was here, but I'm sure he's getting much needed sleep. Miguel, wherever you are, come back. Vero, we miss you. Arturo, you're working too hard. So for anybody that wanders on this video, we encourage you to subscribe. If you become a member or a Patreon member, you can join our Discord and talk to cool people like Calarion here in the chat, which is always fun. We do post a lot of news stuff there, or try to. in between, our weekly news stuff, and we like to talk about all things geek. So give us a subscribe, maybe consider a membership, join us. And yeah, I think, Clarion, thank you very much for hanging. But I think we will probably call it there, as I have rambled to the extent of my ramble. So I'm going to say goodnight to you, Clarion. Hello to anybody lurking or who watches this later. And we will talk to you all later.
Just my shadow.